Good day, brothers and sisters. And per usual request, you press in all those subscribe, like, and other bells and whistles and buttons. Thank you. We are grateful to you tuning in into the show. And I'm here at the Glenn Zone with Glenn Herring, and you are watching Alex Sass Show. Today on the show, we're going to talk about what? DeSantis, Trump, as per usual. I don't know how you feel about this whole DeSantis coming out party. By coming out, meaning his presidential announcement. Speaking of coming out parties, there's a little bit of blowback with all this Target and Walk stuff happening with LGBTQ stuff all over the United States. We'll explain why this is happening. And, well, there's some other news that we're going to share specifically to do. Well, John Cleese, it's another Walkist thing. He's... we covered his story in Life of Briane a few episodes ago, and unfortunately, we got to cover it again because it's still an ongoing situation. And of course, we cannot do without war in Ukraine because, you know, how dare we? Debt ceiling isn't happening yet. We'll cover it in the next episode. But stay tuned, brothers and sisters. We'll see you in a minute. Glenn, how you doing, man?
Well, a lot of things going on in the world. Elections, people running, wanting to be new president. Like you said before, a little blowback, or I don't want to use the word blowback. Let's say pushback.
Well, how do you feel about this whole DeSantis story? Tell me. I mean, he did announce. I mean, I actually know how you feel. You have a strong opinion about this. You think that'll be a good ticket with Trump and DeSantis as a vice president. But why DeSantis wants to run as his own candidate? Is it, I don't know, is it a distraction? Is it a good move? Are the Trump and DeSantis working together on this? It's hard to read. I mean, I have a few videos here I'm going to play in a second, but let me hear your opinion first on this.
Yeah, I think it's all part of the unite the right, get rid of the rhinos, Republican in name only, to unify a conservative government, going back to the way things used to be in better times where you had a good, profitable middle class. And at the same time as the economy is going to get very rough under the woke Democrats, under Biden and its group, looks like they have no chance coming up in 2024. And even the Democrats, people on the left, acknowledge it. So a lot of them probably just won't vote because they don't believe their vote is going to make a difference anyway. So we're expecting to see, if everything goes to plan and there's no election interference, if everything goes to plan, we'll see that the Republicans are going to take everything.
Speaking of take, my take on this, it's all a theater. Like we know Trudeau is a drama teacher. Who was the Zelensky is an actual actor, and DeSantis playing a role of some sort. And I explain why I think he's playing the role. And I'm not here to discredit him. Maybe he has evolved. Maybe he graduated. Maybe, like you said, he was the yellow mouth before, and now he's a full-blown, power to be. But let's watch his candidacy video. I don't know, does it feel confident to you right here?
Because everyone knows if I'm the nominee, I will beat Biden and I will serve 2 terms, and I will be able to destroy leftism in this country and leave woke ideology on the dustbin of history. At the end of the
Well, it seems like he's using the talking points, and he's using a little bit of subliminal messaging standing in front of this worship. Like, that's what I mean. It is a theater, isn't it, Glenn? In some way.
Let's face, the expression, the world is a stage. And so they have to do this, the theatrics, especially with the drama that foreplays in the Western cultures. So they're just, putting a nice montage or a movie together so that people accept it a little bit more. But I think really over the next year, what's going to happen with the economy, if DeSantis has a pet dog, I think the dog would beat Biden too.
I don't know. Let's watch a little bit more of
I've
this.
shown in Florida an ability to win huge swaths of voters that Republicans typically can't win, while also delivering the boldest agenda anywhere in the country. And I think there's a reason why the legacy media is attacking me more than they're attacking anybody else, because I think they realize that if I'm successful in winning the Republican nomination, we're going to bring it home in the general election. And I've pledged to Republican voters, if you nominate me, I will be taking the oath of office on January 20th, 2025 on the west side of the Capitol. No excuses.
Okay, here's the trust thing. This is where I come in. Do you remember the whole COVID thing? It wasn't like, it was ages ago, right? You remember like the whole country shut down, the whole world shut down
3.5 years ago.
And we actually often use Florida as an example of the free state that didn't take those measures. But how quickly we forgot, actually Florida did shut down originally. And he was all for it.
Yeah, in the beginning, with the pressure everywhere. And of course, even he didn't know what was really going on. So he had to follow a few things just to protect himself. And also back then, he was a little bit more green as a politician than he is today.
But that's what I'm talking about. Are you making excuses for him? Okay, let's just watch this video.
Governor Ron DeSantis reversed course on Wednesday, announcing a statewide order to stay at home.
I'm going to be doing an executive order today directing all Floridians to limit movements and personal interactions outside the home.
As far as
they cross-compare him to Kristi Noem. It's Kristi Noem in South Dakota. Yep. She's the governor. She's actually younger than me. She knows what she's doing. And this is the real Republican governor that was all up for freedom from the beginning. And that's why we're playing this video in the first place. Maybe DeSantis is not all what he presents to be.
She's a Republican, but she also has more libertarian type ideologies.
Yeah.
That's for the people, by the people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Me taking action to put a shelter in place there in Minnehaha and Lincoln counties, I will not be doing that today.
If people see a pub or a restaurant and it's packed to the rafters, that's just cut and dry, and that's not just an innocent mistake. And so I told him, no tolerance for that. Just suspend the license.
What I did, though, was tell my people the truth. I gave them personal responsibility over decisions for their family's public health, but also gave them the flexibility they needed to keep their businesses open, take care of their employees and their customers. The message, I think, for spring breakers is that the party's over in Florida. You're not going to be able to congregate on any beach in the state. We're talking about the Sturgis Bike Rally, and that has been labeled for almost a year as a super spreader.
I think the point of this video, and I think it can go on and go on and go on, the point of this video, if we use excuse for him, he bought into this thing like everybody else, but not everybody else bought into this thing. She didn't.
Yeah, there's some people who were just against the narrative from the get-go. They had a funny feeling. They were, more connected with their sixth sense. We know a few people like that. And, well, what can I tell you? Like, this was a long time way at the beginning. That's when, remember little Fauci said maybe you should wear 2 masks.
No, he said no mask first.
No mask, 1 mask, maybe 2 masks to help out. Like, things kept changing. The stories kept changing by the week, as they were. It seems like they were creating the narrative as they were going along.
And I like your idea with the Trump DeSantis as a vice VP, right? Ticket where DeSantis can then pick it up 4 years later, and then you have 12 years of Republican rule, and hopefully blah, blah, blah. But again, you're right. If it's just rhino Republicans, then it's more of the same. You need libertarian movement. And have you ever seen this video of Trump throwing the ball? That's 1992 pilot field in Buffalo, and an announcer asking him, do you still have an airline? And they were making I think because the airline failed at some point and went bankrupt, so he was making fun of him for that. But this Trump's taking a chance for throwing the ball.
He made $1 million with that. And I think he just gave it away to charity.
I got you, bastard.
Yeah, so the point here, Glenn, he's a champion, isn't it?
That was 31 years ago, and he was just a good guy. Let's face it, champ. There are a lot of people won't vote for Trump no matter what. Like Republicans, there's some that just won't vote for Trump. They just don't like him. But With DeSantis on the ticket, let's say is Trump running for president and then DeSantis going to be his right-hand man, vice president. Wow. Then people would actually line up to put their check beside that combo.
Well, let's hope so. And let's hope that a lot of states, by the way, now dismissing the vote by machines, the voting machines. So they will all be going to be hand counted and checked, and hopefully that will eliminate any shenanigans that allegedly happened in the last few elections. Now, speaking of elections, Erdogan won, or at least he claimed the win.
Yeah, people underestimate how important this election is. Turkey, by the way, there's 85 million people live in Turkey, so it's over twice the population of Canada. And it's a very young and educated demographic, so they're rising up. And Erdogan seems to be making connections, obviously, with a group of countries and leaders of these countries who the West seems to be opposing.
He's been there for 21 years.
Yeah, and their election, your leader is good for a minimum 5 years. They have to be in power.
He's also it's a UN state, right? It's an EU state, and it's a NATO state, right? So he holds all the power, right? So he voted against Sweden to enter NATO. He did approve Finland for some reason after he met with Russian counterparts. So he has his foot in the game. He knows how to play in this game. He's been in this game for 21 years. They're trying to get rid of him. Remember, with this whole
attempted shooting, tried to take him out, but then he got a heads up from Putin about that, or the Secret Service.
Even like they had the version of Arab Spring kind of thing going on, and they suppressed it. They were able to stop it just in time. Don't forget that Turks, they have the hosting American nukes in there. So like Russia surrounded, and Turkey is important to NATO specifically because of things like that. I think that's one of the things he threatened NATO with, like, oh, get rid of your nukes, take them out. And where they had the earthquake, remember the earthquake happened where they had the nukes as well. So maybe that was like one of the conspiracy theories. But let's not get into conspiracy theories. Since we're talking about NATO, let's segue to NATO's story. NATO issues warning to Kosovo. And Kosovo is 96% Muslim, right?
It's Albanian, ethnic Albanians.
So does they make NATO racist or whatever?
No, but Kosovo is not really recognized by the majority of the countries in the world, including Russia and China. So, things are lighting up a little bit over there, and Serbian troops, the military is on high alert just in case. So that's why Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of the United Nations, has, help, or is in the effort of trying to bring Kosovo, bring the problems down, to a slower speed, so to be able to sit down at the table and deal with it more in a non-violent manner.
But still, it's the globalists, right? It's the globalists that triggering things for people to worry about. Another war conflict in Europe. Ukraine's not enough. Let's pay attention to more things. Divide and conquer. Muslims versus Christians. That's another one in Europe that would be really nice just before the reset.
Yeah.
Or it is a part of the reset.
It could be, like the destruction of the Yugoslavian country, and and this, and everybody was in there, put in their little portion boxes. But that people don't forget too easily over there, and it doesn't take much for that to go back up into a powder keg.
Well, speaking of powder cake, recently Russia has accused the West involvement in Ukraine conflict, which has been growing actually, and they don't even deny it. I have a few videos here to play. Do you remember this gal?
For the counteroffensive, which we have been working on with you
Victoria
for some
Nuland.
4 or 5 months. We are already beginning our discussions with the Ukrainian government and with friends in Kyiv, both in the civilian side and on the military side, about Ukraine's long-term future.
Well, she sponsored the coup. She doesn't even deny it in 2014.
She's one of the military, the war hawks, the neocons that want to impose their will on the world through any means possible, usually through military force. But you know, it's amazing how in the West we hear, this is day 462 of Russia's invasion into Ukraine. But we don't hear about the years and years ongoing.
The coup happened in 2014.
Yes.
Okay, and it didn't happen on its own. Graham says it. It's the best money he ever spent. Hear it from his mouth.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
And Russians are dying.
Best money we've ever spent.
Best money we ever spent.
Thank you so much.
That was...
That's the best taxpayers' money they ever spent. You imagine if the American taxpayer...
How arrogant this... The Americans should be right now, fuming right now, turning red. What's going on with this? Like, they don't even deny it. They don't even deny it. If brothers and sisters, for some reason, if you still believe this the Russian aggression against the Ukrainians, or just a plain war between Russia and Ukraine for the territory, for the resources Russia wants to expand, but you disregard this completely, wake up. You need a lot of, not walk up, wake up.
Again, it's another indication of the globalists against the people. Okay? We the people.
But it's all the theater, right? It goes back to my original statement. You know, Zelensky is an actor, so is people like Trudeau and everybody else, and everybody in the West, unelected officials of EU government. They don't represent the interest of anybody or any kind of Western state. They still buying Russian oil after it's been banned and what do they call it? The restrictions that they put forth. Where's my English today? Sanctions. The oils and all the companies and SWIFTs and banks, everything been sanctioned to the max. All the countries combined after Russia doesn't even come close to all the sanctions that Russia has against them right now. But yet, Russia still sells all the oil they need back to the West.
Yeah.
And a lot more expensive too, by the way.
One country, India, their purchase of oil from Russia has increased tenfold in a little over a year. I mean, you know, so they're refining the products and selling it back, you know, diesel, gas, natural gas, everything that is needed in Europe to keep the economy keep going. So this is like a circle, a jerk, or it's just like a puzzle. And the average person doesn't have the time or the willpower or the energy to want to try and put this puzzle together, obviously. So they can just keep this facade going on almost as long as they want.
Well, the Nikolai Shulginov, he's the energy minister. He said that those nations have just switched to workarounds to procure Russian imports. He told the Russian one channel, TV channel, when asked if Western countries were still buying Russian oil and gas, but through alternative routes, Shulginov said this information was correct. However, did not elaborate on which specific routes are used to deliver Russian energy to Western customers. Of course, he's not going to disclose that because then, you know, the woke left going to be like, oh, you know, sanction that too. Right? So they still want to protect the business. And by the way, you know, the pipelines, they were never sanctioned. The Europe could have still procured gas, natural gas through the pipelines, except they were blown up. Well, not all of them, but most of them. So going back to the theater, right? The reason why I brought up this story is U.S. supposedly escalating, and Russia is a bad guy, and you know Russia says U.S. is a bad guy, but they're still selling oil, and each other money is good. Glenn, explain that to me, other than globalist versus people thing.
They're saying that the coalition of the West is the bad guy, not like just United States or America.
Yes.
And the coalition of the West is run by the globalists. Europe and North America, they just don't, the citizens just don't really realize it, yes, because of the strength of the propaganda machine called the mainstream media.
How do you address BRICS into this? Like, is BRICS, is that globally a globalist competition, and it's just another globalist alliance against the people?
That's a tough question. It looks like that right now from this perspective, but I think it's also a whole bunch of countries that are switching over to a new narrative, which is going to create a new monetary system. So they don't want to be the last one standing, shall we say. They want to get into it first, and that be easier for them to make the transition over.
Oh, you use that word transition again. Well, Saudi Arabia transitioning to BRICS, right? Or may join BRICS Bank. They're not 100% sold on idea apparently, but almost there. So people jumping ship, people, trying to choose winners ahead of time, sort of gambling versus investment. I don't know how to perceive that, but Saudi Arabia is no small player in the energy market and always been a U.S. partner, even in the 9/11 attacks. They partner up with the military-industrial complex to do the beatings. We should probably do a 9/11 show one day, remind people that people like Epstein didn't kill themselves and Building 7 didn't fall down on its own. But I digress. Speaking of the West and Western issues, did you hear about... Brothers and sisters, do you know what's going on in France for the last few months? Glenn, do you know?
The place is burning, man. The citizens have had enough. They're rebelling. They're fighting back. The globalist puppet Macron, he's just completely ruining that country. The best thing what would happen is maybe if Mr. Macron takes another CV-19 shot and he has a mysterious heart attack or something.
Oh, he never did, right? Remember the MP from Parliament there in France? He complained, and none of the other politicians that were pushing the thing took it. But Glenn, do you think that Canadians and Americans actually know that those protests in the West are happening against the Western so-called democracies? Why? It's not nowhere near on legacy media. You really have to look and search for those news. Or tune into Alex Sass Show. Another good reason to follow us on YouTube and click all those subscribe and like buttons. So say, by the way, we've been releasing one podcast, or even sometimes, more videos a day. There's like multiple videos coming out a day, but at least one podcast a day. That's an achievement, brothers and sisters. You need to support that by sharing the show, because we're a shadow band. Glenn, remember John Cleese story, the Life of Briane was shared? By the way, like, brothers and sisters, you can go a few shows back, I don't know, maybe last week sometime, and we covered the Life of Briane story and how it was a comedy back in the day, but, it was the prophetic scene with Life of Briane where there's a character that, a male character, asked to be called Loretta because he wants to be a woman and he wants to be a mother. He wants to have a baby. And the woke crowd went against it, and John Cleese, wants to do a stage show of this, a stage version of the show. And he's not going to change. He's not going to back off. He's not going to change the script.
Well, why should he, champ? This was a comedy 40 years ago. Had people rolling, laughing. It was very, very popular. And today, oh no, too many people are offended.
You know what? I just came with an idea. So I was in London last year, and I went. I'm not a huge musical fan. And the reason why I'm not a huge musical fan, not because I don't hate on musicals, is because I cannot sing myself. We had an opera singer here a few weeks ago, and we're going to release a show on Rumble with him. But I went to see Back to the Future. It was an amazing performance, amazing show they did for the stage, and you would say well, how can they do it for the theater? It was amazing, Glenn. They changed the script. By the way, spoiler alert: if you don't, fast forward it 30 seconds. Did you ever see Back to the Future?
No.
You never seen Back to the Future?
No, I didn't get out much, kid.
You're gonna do your homework, Glenn. You're gonna do your homework. You're gonna watch the show. It's a very entertaining show, and we're gonna cover it because in Back to the Future on the stage play they changed the show. So at one point in the show, One of the plots is the professor gets killed by the terrorist who he stole plutonium from to use it for his time machine engine. In the stage, they changed it. It was no longer that. He just got radiation poisoning, and that's why the character had to go back in time or something like this to tell him not to use it. So, like, there was some kind of woke influence because you couldn't use... I guess they were Iranians. But why wouldn't you? The Persians are a hated group by the West. That still kind of fits the narrative. Okay, I digress. So, yeah, John Cleese backed off. And it seems like Target is backing off a little bit with their wokeness. Brothers and sisters, did you hear that? And you know who wasn't happy about Target backing off? Well, first of all, let's see the story first.
It wasn't the G-man that was unhappy. You know, all these big corporations going woke. You know, they say when you go woke, you go broke, and then the value of the stock goes up in smoke. You know, I don't know why people want. Well, we know why that they're being pushed for these agendas, but they're getting exposed, and all these corporations, they end up coming down.
By the way, did you know you could be gay and the rapper? Like I grew up in the 90s. To me, that's counterintuitive. Like, it's very contradictory. To me, rapper was like a gangster rap. You know, somebody's well. I don't know. Maybe that just was my perception because I grew up in the right. But there's a gay rapper called Lil Nas. Did you hear about that? So he mocks the backlash to Target's Pride clothing children. Speaking of a lot of celebrities, for some reason, people of influence, right? Whoever they influence, and I guess they influence in TikTok and YouTube Shorts and stuff like this. They put out a lot of videos, and including like this guy. But you know who Rachelle Lefevre? You ever heard of this actress?
She's in maybe she's in Hollywood. But you know what? When you're mainstream in Hollywood and you want work, you have to push their narrative. Okay.
I think so. Let's listen to this.
So I just walked into Target, and the right behind me here, where you see all these lovely swimsuits, that's where the Pride display used to be. And I came in here 2 days ago, and my 7-year-old, who's non-binary, saw it and said, "Look, Mom, it's Pride. Look, they're going to celebrate me." And because some people complained, and
crocodile tears.
Well, yeah. First of all, she's acting. Yeah. You can tell she's acting. Not very good either. But like you said, that was a paid-for advertisement. Like she's like, "Ooh, I need the new role." I don't know. Actually, that's what she did. But is that a child abuse to be like?
Well, I don't know. What kind of mother is that? My 7-year-old is non-binary. Well, why don't you work with your kid and make him binary? Make him, either he's the boy or a girl. Why portray and allow this mental illness?
Let him choose when he grows up to be 18.
No. They have to be guided. That's why they're young, until they're able to make the proper choices for themselves.
And that's why you're a parent. And that's why you have all those responsibilities.
Yeah, that's right.
And the crazy part, kid has no clue. It's like, that conversation that you and me have, like, kid cannot go to McDonald's and buy his own burger. You have to buy it for him. And as a parent, you have all those responsibilities that put on you to raise your child. The only thing child has to do is honor thy mother and thy father. So your child is honoring you by default, by listening to your crazy nonsense. And you pushing them into this psychotic, and they all become, psychopaths, narcissists, and all this other stuff because they need all this attention. You encourage that. Oh, look at me, I'm wearing a dress. And if I'm not wearing a dress, you can't look at me. Okay, let's listen to what she's saying.
Stuff to the ground, or I don't know what happened. They have moved the Pride section to the back of the store. So the next time my 7-year-old comes to Target, or rather, I can't bring them here anymore, at least.
Oh, because he's triggered.
I can't bring them here? Are we talking about more than one kid? Or one kid with more than one problem? I just got that. Did you see it? You're cracking up, But it's true. It's right there. Right on the screen.
Multiple personality disorder. She said them because he's a boy and a girl. He's binary, right? Or gender fluid or whatever. Today he's them. Tomorrow he's a penguin.
For the entire month of June. Because if they walk in, and all the other people who walk in can go, Where'd it go?
Well, this is where it go.
Out, cut them up, and drop them everywhere in Target and every single store that is pushing the cult onto our children.
Resistance.
Let them know how you feel and where you stand.
Carrie, we just got this sheet handed to us. It looks like Target is pulling some of this crazy line from their stores. Do you consider that a victory?
No, it's not. Jesse, we here at the Battle Cry have been saying that this is a cult. We have been dealing with a gender ideology cult. And now we are seeing this cult on full display in the name of pride. We are standing up against this cult.
Well, pride is a sin, isn't it?
You know, champ, let people be, but not children. No, they have to be guided because they're not at the age, the maturity level to make those choices.
Well, in the last episode, that's what we said, right? The reason why we have all this nonsense going on in the world and we all have to go to work, both parents, and have a side hustle is so the children taken out of the environment where they need to be guided by the parents and the family. They're guided by other parties that have sinister.
Well, maybe if two people have to work in the family, you know, and there's not enough time to guide that child properly, and also, you know, so the child becomes a product of the state more and goes into the indoctrination system that used to be called an education system, then I don't know, maybe you're not financially ready to have children, because that's the most important job a person is ever going to have.
Are you ever financially ready to have children? Here's my question, or not question. Here's my thought on that. I think if you've made an intention to have children, but consciously it's like, okay, I'm working on this. I know I can do it. I want to do it. And you're doing it righteously with good intention, why you want to bring children to this world. And that's a whole different discussion. We're going to do actually discussion on this. But I think God will give you resources to provide for if you disciplined enough to do this. Right, Glenn?
Well, champ, money doesn't give you happiness. Money gives you the time to do the things that make you happy. And one of the things that should make a parent happy is watching their child, you know, flourish and grow into its own human being. And you're a part of that. You're helping that. But I see a lot of these people, I don't know, they're being indoctrinated into actually hurting their children.
Intentionally. What's the sinister intention behind it? So listen,
we will win this battle, and we need you,
yes,
the people,
we will.
to rise up and stand up with us and fight this battle alongside with us ladies here at the Battle Cry.
Brittany, who is winning?
Well, right now it looks like Target got in bed with the devil. And if you don't like that, it's time now to get really loud. Parents, pastors, consumers, they are making it pitifully obvious for you to see that we are in a war of good versus evil, and your children are the target. So if we want to win, it's going to take all of us getting involved. And that
she brings up a good point. You know how we always talk about this globalist people, you know, globalist versus people, and the division happens. Obviously, the middle class have been disseminated throughout the world, right? Intentionally. So there's only two classes: the controlling, ruling class, and the poor people. And but who are those people that are in charge? And they're using straight up demonic comparison, like this is the devil, right? This is the devil that right. And I believe this, and it sort of trickles down. It's not like you said, it's not like a teacher in the grade school in the third grade that she wakes up one morning after watching a TikTok video and she says, "Oh, I'm going to turn those kids into transgender fluids because this is..." No, she's been brainwashed by her teacher. Her teacher has been brainwashed by somebody else and all that. And the same thing happening with corporations. Just listen to this. Do you guys know there's a thing called woke score or equivalent to that?
Why are so many companies going woke? There had to be some reason, and after some digging, I found it. The CEI, Corporate Equality Index, aka the Woke Credit Score. It's a made-up score based on how much a company is pushing woke issues. And who made up and gives this score? An organization called the HRC, a massive political lobbying group. Apparently, HRC sends representatives to corporations every year, telling them the kind of stuff they have to make visible at the company, give them a list of demands, and if they don't...
It's sort of like IMF for the banks, for the local banks, right? So like IMF will cover the whole country with what you can do with the resources, what you can do with immigration and all that, right?
Uh-oh. No funding for the Alex Sav show. here in the Glen Zone. That's for sure.
Oh, that's how you get shadow banned by Bill C-11 and stuff.
Follow through, there's a threat that they won't keep their CEI credit score. And why do companies even care about this made-up woke credit rating?
If they get a bad score, then the woke investor funds start putting pressure on the boards. Woke activists are mobilized out in the streets. Advertising campaigns are shut down. Anyone that continues to do business with them will also be penalized. This is fascism.
Don't play their game, don't get their investment. And who is funding the HRC? Surprise, surprise, it's George Soros' Open Society Foundation.
Gergi Schwartz, right?
Now, this HRC has introduced this arbitrary credit rating to everything. States, municipalities, and even schools. Imagine that. There are people who are deciding what credit score an individual school can get. They threaten them by having these big funds withhold investments into them. We now have a made-up scoring system that doesn't physically exist, deciding how much digital money that doesn't physically exist companies.
You know, Champ, almost every day, somebody will tell us that we're saying what they think, but they're afraid to say. The one who's going to win, when they asked the girls before, who's winning? The people who are winning will be the silent majority. Okay? Evil only prevails when good men do nothing. But if you're a good man, how could you end up doing nothing? Now's the time for the good men to come up and lead and not be afraid of what's going to happen and this and, what are people going to think? No, leaders don't think like that. True leaders do what they inherently know is best for the human race.
Interesting you brought up. In your statement, in your rant, you just brought up leadership and silent majority. And it seems like the leadership in the Western culture has been protecting silent minorities, all out minorities, and a lot of that was good. Like, the anything to do with race, let's take the blacks out of the back of the bus and put them to the front. That's a good thing, right? That is a good thing. Fearless leader Justine, what's his take in the world? Remember that thing he did with the Italian prime minister last week, where he had to reprimand her for not being the best LGBTQ advocate? He gave her the negative woke score. It seems like that's his responsibility in the whole World Economic Forum thing. This is what he says. He just went to this University of Edmonton, and look what he said.
It's scary to see what's happening.
Winnipeg, sorry.
In the United States.
He's got fear in his
Whether
eyes.
It's 2S LGBTQI plus rights.
Okay, say that. He said it really quick. Can you repeat that slow? 2SLGBTQ plus, 2SLGBTQI plus. He practiced that.
Say them right.
By the way, this is such a practice speech. I haven't heard him say once. We're gonna start again, Justin. You're just so good at this one.
It's scary to see what's happening in the United States.
Oh my God.
Whether it's 2SLGBTQI plus rights that are constantly being attacked.
Roll them.
My government will never let it happen. My government will always stand up unequivocally for women's rights, for 2S LGBTQI plus rights.
His government doesn't talk for the people. Okay, that's the problem. He disassociates what the Canadian people want and what his government wants. That's the reason why in the next election, he's history.
Well, he's talking about protecting minorities, right? Let's remember just a few years back how he was protecting the minority. By the way, that was not a minority by any means. And even if you compare it to the numbers of people, this speech that we just heard him do was at the institution, a higher learning institution, right, in Winnipeg. So he appealed to the crowd that's already been brainwashed by many years, and that's why they clap. Probably those were the woke communist teachers and some of the best students, right? But remember, just a few years ago, he had this speech. I mean, let's not.
The overwhelming majority, close to 90% of Canadians have done exactly that.
A lie, by the way.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or
Glenn.
He was talking about me. I took Rambo on my way to Ottawa. I'm a fringe.
Explain to me, why is it okay to defend one minority, but this is a small fringe minority? By the way, which wasn't very small either. Like, how do you, and democratically, this is a hypocrisy of the Western democracy. Screw this minority. They have unacceptable views. No, but we're like this one because, they walk around dressed like flamingos and let's just finish this.
Holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following...
Justin, you don't represent views of Canadians.
Justin, you're going to see the views of Canadians in the next election, which won't be rigged this time. Okay? No help from China. No help from the riggers. No. Everything is going to be clear, and you're going to see how little Liberal Party is going to have left after this.
Who's that person in the corner there?
Science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country.
Justin, science has changed, didn't it, though?
It's important.
Trust the science. Yeah, I trust the science just as much as I trust Trudeau, really.
But, when he doesn't even speak for the LGBTQ2S, LGBTQI+. Oh, my God, Glenn. I just did that. He doesn't speak for them because this is what they say.
Does not represent me. Good evening. My name is Frank Rodriguez, and I'm the Executive Director of Operations for Gays Against Groomers. The reason that I'm here is to show support in regards to deciding to not fly the gay flag during June. I'm a 31-year-old gay man pushing back against the hijack agenda of the LGBT Incorporated. The pride flag, this flag, does not represent me. When you're a conservative gay and you have conservative traditional values, it doesn't represent you. I am tired of this community trying to represent me and the millions of people that support people like me. Gays Against Groomers represents millions of like-minded LGBT members. And the people in this building are upset because they think that they're being marginalized. Do you see Chinese people in here upset that we're not flying the Chinese flag on Chinese New Year's? Or how about Cinco de Mayo when the Mexicans got their independence? Do you see Mexicans in here upset? No. You see my community, the gay people that want to be marginalized, that make victims of ourselves. This flag that I'm standing on no longer represents me. This is not your fault. I'm not yelling at you. I'm upset because people like this are constantly representing my community. They make us look like fools. They make us look dumb. And I'm tired of it. This flag does not represent everyone. With liberty and justice for all. That flag, this flag, the American flag, 13 stripes and 50 stars represent this. Represent us, not this. Not this. And if the gay community would wake up, we wouldn't have this pushback. Stop indoctrinating children, and these types of things wouldn't happen.
He's talking to Trudeau.
One more thing. Do you know where I can find a trash can?
Well, it's rich, right? He was right on point, and we already have a flag that represents your freedom to choose, and that's your American flag. It represents your freedom to choose. Nobody's stopping you from being gay or pink flamingo or whatever you want to be, quite literally. What's happening here is, Glenn, it's been kind of puzzling because they've been comparing them, right? Allegorical them. They're trying to pigeonhole to this issue, the gay pride issue, in the civil movement into the same, saying like it's the same thing as the race. No, it's not. You definitely didn't choose your race. Now they're trying to pretend like, well, you can choose your gender. Even by default, they are wrong. Like the ideology is saying, Well, you can choose your gender. Today you're a girl, you're gender fluid, tomorrow you're a boy. But the civil movement, if you're born black, if you're born Chinese, if you're born white, if you're born of any ethnicity, that wasn't your choice. So the ideology is faulty to begin with. You cannot put those two things into one. So they're actually contradicting themselves. On one end, they're saying, oh, you're born gay. On the other thing, like, well, but you're also gender fluid. And then who told me that story recently? There was a lesbian woman, a gay lesbian woman. She was bashed from, she was actually, she was abolished from some kind of community because she said she did not want to be with the men pretending to be women, whatever they call, right? The transgender women, or because like the whole point of being a lesbian is I don't like the penis. I want a woman. And she was deemed to be racist or whatever, transphobic, because she did not want to play into this game. I think the gig is up, Glenn. You think gig is up?
It'll definitely be up, champ. When the economy turns down, people start losing their jobs. You get a large amount of foreclosures and bankruptcies, and then they're going to have real problems. Not this fake facade, this made-up Disney-type problems when everything is so easy in the world. When things get rough, okay, it's their turn too.
Oh, you brought up Disney. I didn't. Disney Plus series, Matilda's The World at Our Feet, praised as a powerful display of queer joy. Keeping with the Disney drive to create as much content extolling LGBTQI2S+. They use the acronym differently. Why don't you just use the whole alphabet? Identity as possible. The entertainment giant has posted a limited series about the lesbians who play for Australia's national women's soccer team. Yeah.
That's important. Oh, yeah. The world turns. Without that, where would we be? That's really important. Thanks, Disney.
But Disney, that's the channel that kids watch. So you're saying that's no propaganda there. That's no indoctrination there. Yeah, parents, don't let children watch Disney, please. Maybe it used to be all right. Not anymore. On this note, brothers and sisters, please discern. Go to the gym. Go to the church. Read the Bible. Just step up with your morals and don't be quiet. Don't be silent. You don't need to be violent. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to go fight anyone. But share good news at home. Share Alex Sass show at home. And there's many shows like ours. And as you can tell, we play you all those videos, not because to tell you, look, it's not just us. It's all of us. We just brave enough to speak up. Are you brave enough to speak up? You are. We believe in you. We trust you. Any last words, Glenn?
You summed that up fantastic. That's the way to do it.
Okay, brothers and sisters, we'll see you on the next one.